Welcome to Deco Guide, the only app designed to help you navigate your college and career journey in the quickest and most affordable way. This podcast is brought to you by EdTechity, dedicated to opening doors to higher education and career opportunities for all.
What's up, everyone's Professor G, and we have another episode with Tio Rob, our business and life coach. Tio Rob, welcome.
Buenos dias.
And so today, Theo, we're going to cover, this is our third episode, and we're titling this one, Learning and Training, School Ain't Lame, It's a Strategy. And so we'd really love to hear your insight around these topics, and I'll include some of the examples, and then we could have this conversation for the listeners and the families and the parents and the students that are out there, or the wannabe students, right? The prospective students that are out there on the importance of just continuously learning, right? And so maybe some of the avenues that they can use to actually start that learning. So take it away, Tio Rob.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. And I love these episodes that we're doing. And I hope that some of the experiences and some of the things that I've learned and can express will resonate with those that are watching this, because it means so much to me. It's very deep to me to have people appreciate this. So let me start by acknowledging a couple of things. During these episodes that we're creating, it allows me, and it's given me the opportunity to reflect on my own life. I'm actually in the process of writing a book and so forth, and I have had so many periods of my life. There's 50 years I've been doing these things. So the first 10 years were one thing, and then another thing, then another thing. And I began to add my understanding and to grow based on where I was at this period of time in my life. When I first was married, that was one thing. We moved back to the East Coast. That was a different experience. I learned retail, came back, got into the insurance business, had that career, had a consulting career. I just continued on. And it was different all the time. So one of the things that I reflected with my own life, I didn't stay with one single path. I didn't have one thing that I always did. If I was interested in having tremendous economic comfort and success, I would have stayed with the insurance industry 50 years ago. Okay. But it didn't scratch my itch. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't responding to who I am and what my purpose is.
Even though you were good at it. Right. Even though you were good at it, it didn't fill certain thing in your heart.
No,
right, that would have kept you in it. Right. And I'm glad you're saying this, Rob, because, people nowadays, I meet with students every single day, and they're just so dead focused on one thing only. You know what I mean? And that scares me, because what you said is absolutely correct. It was the same thing in my life. Is there's stages in your life that you will change your mind. Right. You will love something for a number of years, and then you're like, it's time to go do something else, to bring that love of learning, that spark back into your heart. Right. In the terms of employment and stuff like that. So I'm so glad you're saying that, because if you're listening to this, every 3 to 5 to 10 years, you should be making a drastic change into a different industry or into learning something totally new.
Well, in our previous episodes, I talked about answering 3 questions. Who am I? What do I want? And what's my purpose? When you finally have all 3 of those things aligned, okay, you got it, man, and you'll soar and everything will be cool. One of the things that people, when they graduate from high school, from college, what have you, they want to make money, okay? And sometimes they want to make a lot of money. What can I do to make a lot of money? I want to have a bigger house. I want to do better for my family, whatever that might be. Okay. And I was stuck in that. I didn't finish getting my degree in college, but I got into a career that allowed me to excel without having to have that. And I got all kinds of certifications along the way in the insurance business. I got certified, economics, accounting, reading a financial statement, marketing, sales strategies, all these different things were the training that the insurance industry gave me. And I was digesting them, and it would allow me to do really well and to, be very successful in that. But it wasn't satisfying me in the least. Okay. And so as I began to go through that and go through one episode, then another episode, I began to expand my business and so forth, where I became a consultant to businesses. And ultimately my challenges were to go up against the Internal Revenue Service, banks, state of California, all these government attorneys and so forth. There I am by myself defending a client or defending a position and telling everybody, look, here's how it's going to work. And I won. Okay. I remember I was sitting.
Because you became a very skillful negotiator through all the different training you've received.
Absolutely.
Years, right?
I learned how to sell. And if I'm going to sell a position of innocence, if I'm going to sell a position of injustice, I'm your guy. Okay. So I went there and I mean, in Texas, I had a company and I had a client that, man, not good. And they thought maybe I was kind of the kingpin of what was eventually a very bad operation. And I'm sitting there and I got 13 different, I got federal attorneys, state attorneys, representatives of banks and so forth, all grilling me. They want the testimony that I gave, the deposition was 5 inches thick over 2 days. Not a problem, man. Not a problem for me at all, because I knew what I wanted to do. None of that. Anyway, long story short, the thing that I want people that watch this and listen to this understand is that, first of all, be true to yourself. Don't let the influences outside of your life cause you to look away from who you really should be, who you are, what you want, and what your purpose is. So, for example, we talk a lot, and my whole purpose for this episode is to help people achieve and understand what their best life is. And there's 8 elements that we've put up in the past. And the elements include things like finance and family relations and all these different things. And health. Health is a really good example. When I decided to quit smoking, I remember my dad says, what are you doing that for? My dad lived to be 92 and he smoked 2 packs a day. I've been smoking all my life and so forth. I said, well, that's cool,
I've heard those stories. Yes.
Yeah.
I've heard my family, same thing. Oh, well, we smoke every day. And I'm like, no.
Small sample size. Okay. I'm not interested in the lives of 22 people that you can point to me. I'm more interested in the millions of people that suffer from this. So it leads me to discuss and to say, look, before you start listening to people that might put a roadblock on what you should do with your life, on what your best life is, decide what you're going to use as the standard for letting those things come into your life. When I finally shook and got rid of all these other voices that didn't know shit, they were not educated in it, they didn't bother to learn, and so forth. When I finally got rid of that, it opened my eyes to what the truth was. Social truth, if you will. Okay? So, I mean, here we are today.
So back to smoking real quick for our listeners. So you have some people over here telling you, hey, I have a cousin or I have an aunt or I have a grandfather who's been smoking all their life and they lived 105 years old, right? You're going to get that a lot. Right, I get that still. People telling me these really rare stories about one person who did it this way and, lucked out, right? Because it's mostly based on luck. But then you look at the millions who, in the case of smoking, died of lung cancer, right? Other types of cancers, right? Heart disease, you name it. And you have millions on that list, right? And so it's really stop listening to the bullshit of this one person who freaking made it. Of course, there's always going to be one lucky person, 2 lucky people, 3 lucky people. But compared to everyone else, that's not the right path for you to go down. No. You want to make sure you stay healthy, which means stop smoking if you're a smoker, right? Eat better, right? You know what we have to eat, but yet we insist on eating these other negative things, right? And then yet later there'll be diseases, there'll be different things that will happen to our bodies because of it. So what I'm getting from you is stop listening to that bullshit.
Well, and what really became clearest to me, and this is after I quit gambling, this is after I quit drinking, this is after I quit, partying around and all the bad things that you're supposed to not do, right? And it was totally acceptable in my peer group. I mean, I had professionals that lived this life too, Yeah. So when I finally, the last hurdle that I really had to overcome was my diet and my exercise, my care for my body. I was 300 pounds. I was dying. Mm-hmm. And when I went through 6 months of training with a registered dietitian on what I should do, I ran smack into disinformation that I grew up with. And it made it real clear to me, like, wait a minute, Rob, start over, pal. Just take it from the top and figure things out. So I came up with these things and said, okay, I tell you what, I'm going to look at a human life from the eyes of things that are absolutely critical and in the order of priority that they're critical. Okay. Mm-hmm. And these things it starts with breathing. We have to all breathe, right? Without air, we're dead. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, the air that we breathe, it's got to be healthy, clean air. It can't be polluted. It can't be full of pollution, and things like that. It's going to damage our health. So learn about that. Learn about what it's going to take to persevere and survive and live and have your kids live and your grandkids live and so forth by breathing clean air. You need clean water. Talk to the people in Flint, Michigan. Mm-hmm. Okay? And all around, so there's the thing we have to have. If we don't have water in abundant supply and it's fresh, clean, non-polluted water, we're going to die.
Right. We don't mean sugary drinks. You don't mean
no. I mean,
I'm
talking about
straight
H2O,
water.
Baby.
Yes.
We're talking about H2O in a glass, cooking your food in it, adding it to your food and all that.
I mean, even thinking about like how many glasses of water did I drink yesterday? Oh, yeah. Dude, It's not enough. I already know. I'm not even getting. It's not even close to enough, right?
Well,
and
so what I learned,
conversations bring that up is if you're listening. How many glasses of water did you drink yesterday?
Okay,
right?
The answer to that question is enough to make your pee clear.
Mm-hmm. That's how you measure.
Very simple. That's it. If you've got stinky, dark yellow pee, hey, guess what? Drink more, okay? And make
water.
It
water.
Yeah, water, baby. Oh, water. Yeah. So, and that was a real simple thing because when I looked at this part of my life, I said, wait a minute, now you had to have eight glasses of water, blah, blah, blah. No, what you got to do is have clean pee, period. Clean, healthy, non-smelly pee. That means you're doing good.
Clear. The clearer, the better.
Exactly. So the next thing we're talking about, so you have to have clean air to breathe. You have to have healthy water. Human beings need shelter. Okay? Pure and simple. Yeah. You have to have a roof over your head. You've got to keep threats out. You have to have a clean, healthy environment on the inside. You can't thrive, okay, and live your best life if you have an insecure shelter or a shelter that's polluted or a shelter that's a bad environment, a shelter that doesn't have working appliances, a shelter that doesn't protect you from the elements outside and so forth. So that's the third thing that we need is shelter, okay? Mm-hmm. The next thing we have to do is take care of ourselves, health care. So we're going to get diseases. We're going to have broken bones. We're going to have different things happen. And so you've got to go to a medical facility, doctors and professional people that know these things to fix you, period. Mm-hmm. And 75 of the nations around the world have universal health care.
Mm-hmm. Just not here.
We're the only one that doesn't have all those big companies, and so we profit. So that's another topic. I'm gonna build on that again a little bit later in this conversation. The next thing we need is education, and man, do we need it. Look, and I'm not necessarily talking about being a PhD in something, but for God's sakes, learn what your vote means. Learn what the three branches of government are. Yeah. Learn what happens, how our economy works. Have a smart, intelligent vote. so you know what you're getting when you cast your vote as the best you can.
Yeah, understand the country you live in, understand how to make change, understand, yes, the basics of the United States government systems.
Now,
Bare minimum.
How important is that today?
Yeah.
Okay, the last time when I really learned these lessons, when I got on board with being educated in terms of political situations going on, it was the 60s. Okay, it started with the word
Civil
Vietnam,
rights movement,
civil rights,
War, exactly.
Dolores Huerta and the farm workers and all those different things. I got that. I understood it. And I understood what I was standing up for when I went out. I've been an activist my whole life. You know, I've been somewhat of a shit disturber when it comes to things that I think are not right. That's part of who I am. So, okay, it's part of what I want to get done. So education. And I don't mean an education as a career, as a way to make an income. I mean an education as to the life you are living right now here in the United States of America. Okay,
right.
Everything. learn about
your capacity of learning, your desire to learn new things, whether they're formal or informal programs. Right? They don't have to be formal training programs. They don't have to be formal schooling. What it is the desire to learn more about just different topics, different
and be
subjects.
Informed. To be aware, to be informed. For example, since over the last 20 years. Our financial institutions have taken over our lives completely. Okay, so when I first became aware of this, maybe 10 years ago, I thought, no, wait a minute. I didn't understand it myself. Okay, now I understand that there's cash back credit cards. Okay, there's periods where you don't pay interest and so forth and so on. So if you don't get educated into how our current economic system works, you're going to be paying a lot more for your life than those that are educated.
Right.
Okay. So that's just another form of education. So when you get
learn about income inequality, what is that?
Oh my God, please
learn about that. Right. Just you can learn about that on your own on YouTube. Right. You can learn about that on your own by reading a couple of different news articles from reputable, news outlets. Right. Learn about what does that mean? What is a reputable news outlet and who is not a reputable news
outlet? And the same thing is true with all these informations. There's a publication that began in 1823 in New England called The Lancet, Lancet. And their business was to publish the latest research and studies on health, on things that you need to do to your body, surgeries, drugs, you name it. That was a clearinghouse. They're still in business today, and they publish and accept 5% of the massive amounts of studies that they get worldwide. And their job is to vet which things we're going to share and say, you know what, these guys did it. I learned so
only
much
the most unbiased, right? Meaning they're as unbiased as possible, right?
Yep.
Information. So they're one of those news outlets that you can trust because of their history of only publishing stuff that's research based, stuff that's unbiased.
Now we'll go back real quick to education just for a second, because one of the clear indicators that I think is amazing is you look at the relationship between CEO pay and worker pay. You want to look at income inequality? Great. As I was a kid growing up, 25-1. As I grow older, 60, 70%. Then Reagan comes in. And before you know it, boom, 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 boom. So today we have hundreds of times CEO pay to the average worker in their same thing. Now, does that mean that these guys are that much smarter? Or does that mean that the workforce that they have is that much dumber? No, it means that the system's been rigged to make that happen.
Yeah. To where
you need to understand that. Yeah. So you need to understand how that works. I mean, at any rate, don't get me going, as they say. So the next thing,
we'll do our own thing on income inequality. We'll do an episode now on income inequality.
You bet, man. I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
So the next thing that you need, so healthy air and water, healthy food, safe shelter, healthcare, education, transportation is the next thing. You've got to be able to go from point A to point B, whether it's a job, whether it's shopping, you name it. That means either a car or somebody that's got a car or public transportation or what have you, but you need reliable transportation, and you can't really live without it these days, right? And then finally, you may, or hopefully you won't in your life, but you're going to need legal representation. You're going to need to be,
and you will, and we're not talking about, in some cases you'll need criminal legal representation, but most cases you'll need, eventually if you really start changing your life and growing it, etc. Eventually you'll need, just an attorney to help you protect your family, your job, your money, business representation, etc. So we're talking about the legal representation. When you different stages of your life, you'll need different legal representation, throughout your life that's changing. So
in my career, when I first started, it was, financial planning and estate planning and things like that, what you're talking about. Then it migrated into problem resolution. Okay, businesses that got themselves into various forms of trouble. So my best friend, one of my best friends right now, is an attorney. We've been together for over 40 years, and he's taught me a hell of a lot. Because as I got into these businesses that were struggling, that had problems and so forth, there was divorces, there was lawsuits, there was employees complaining about things, there was creditors trying to go after their money, you name it, okay? So I learned one whole bunch about navigating and through legal channels. So these things that we've got here, healthy air, healthy food, safe shelter, healthcare, education, transportation, and legal representation are all super important. Now, where are you getting your education? Who are you listening to? We talked about that a bit earlier. And are you going to really well-educated experts? Are you going to be talking to an attorney that knows how to do these things? Are you going to be talking to a registered dietitian that knows the truth about health? All right? Or are you going to listen to some idiot like Robert Kennedy Jr., please don't even get me going on that.
Right. Who's appointed, not an expert, who has just crazy ideas that actually will cause more death than actually save people. It's again back to don't listen.
Exactly.
To the bullshit. Right.
Well, the only truth he's ever said is don't take medical advice from me. Gee, that's why you're the secretary of. At any rate, so the first thing you need to commit yourself to is to make sure that who you are listening to for advice or for education or for what to do, make sure that they know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
Truly. Okay. Now, the next source of education and information, some of it may be perfectly valuable and good, but it's folklore education. Now, up here where I live, we have forests that have been around, many years. Yeah. And we have indigenous people up here that have managed and maintained these forests for thousands of years. Now, the people that are in charge of doing that today from the government are finally listening to these people about what to do. I would call that valid, justified folklore education. They know what they're talking about. But your uncle that says, man, I've smoked 2 packs a day and drinking, a quart of booze all my life, it's okay, don't listen to them. No, that's not good. That's not the right guy. Okay. So folklore education.
I want to add to that. My father-in-law has this vast knowledge of of teas and of herbs and of natural healing remedies. I mean, he reads I think he's the biggest reader I know, right? And he'll grab anything just to absorb his brain into whatever it is he can when it comes to health and just learning about natural remedies, right? And I mean, he's literally a library. And the formal education, I think down to like probably 6th grade, if that, in terms of formal education, but is an encyclopedia, right, of health. And, you can say, hey, my doctor said something's going on with my liver. He already knows what to make you, right? Back to that folklore knowledge, right, is we don't have to take pills for everything.
No,
right? That's
well,
not full.
And I've met your father-in-law, and he is an amazing man. And I can tell you, the moment I met him, he does not have any outcome in mind other than helping you with what he knows will work.
Yeah.
Not in it for the money, not in it for fame, not in it for anything other than to say, you're a human being, I love you, and I want to help you. And for generations, I know that this works. Now, there may be some other things. He's not afraid to say, by the way, this too might work, and so forth. But see, the motivation behind your father-in-law is one of love and peace, and he wants the outcome.
To be helpful. Yes, he wants to be helpful in making you healthier. And I'm like, wow, I wish my regular doctor felt that way.
well, listen, because here's the deal. Here's the other point I want to make, and this is a good critical time to make this point in our conversation today. If you want to look at what is working for the right purpose, from the heart and truth, follow the money. Mm-hmm. Always follow the money. If you look at our healthcare system, the reason that we're the only industrialized nation in the world that has a for-profit healthcare system is because the money people say, wait a minute now, let's not give this shit away, man. People will pay anything to save their lives, and let's get as much of that money as we can. Mm-hmm. My shareholders, so they go to the other people that have the outcome is money and profit. Whereas the outcome of healthcare should have nothing to do with profit. Right. Profit is a terrible motivator when it comes to saving lives. You want the outcome to be a safe life. You want the outcome to be just and fair, not how much money you've made on it. And that's true.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I know people in the healthcare industry that their job is to fill hospital convalescent home beds with the sickest people to turn over beds. And I'm like, wait. Aren't you supposed to put people in those beds and then let's just see, let's get them back to, try to get them back to health? They're like, no, if we do that, we'd be bankrupt. So we have to fill the bed. So my job is to find the sickest people and get them to take this bed, and I'll be able to turn it over in 3 months. I'm like, holy crap, that is just made me feel so terrible that once we get to a point in our life where we can't fend for ourselves, that's where these individuals come in. And then they just are basically swapping us out for profit. And it's
and that's why I say, look, the people that are watching are listening to what we're saying here, right? Mm-hmm. If money and having a lot of it is your motivation for getting an education, for having a career and whatever, it's not going to work. Okay? I mean, great. So you'll have a lot of money. Does that mean you're doing anything that's going to help anybody or anything? Not necessarily. Now, I'm not saying you can't make a lot of money. Nothing wrong with making a lot of money, but your motivation should be the outcome with which you're trained to do. And I'll give you an example. There are a lot of people in this country that are Christians. They claim to be Christians, and they want to study the Bible, and they want to lead a life aligned with Christianity and the Bible. Great, fine, okay, but they don't. And I'll give you one glaring example. The King James version of our Bible puts way at the very top of the things that you shouldn't do, what they call usury laws, charging interest. Okay? Bad news, man. When I was first in the business life in the 70s, there was usury laws in place that limited the interest that you could charge to 18%. That was it. Couldn't charge more than that. It was against the law. Today it's 27%, 28%, more than that.
I've seen 30%. Yes.
Oh yeah,
you're right.
So they've thrown away, and yet these same people go to church on Sunday and say, oh, blah blah blah. Well, they pick and choose. What elements of the religion?
I mean, I'm thinking about credit cards. It's I got a month to pay. No, you don't. The month is not what you think. Your month is, in a regular person is 30 days, 31 days. In a credit card statement, it's 21 days. And I'm like, wait. If I don't make my payment or pay off my balance within that 21 days, I'm thinking I got 30 days. You don't, right? It's rigged. It's rigged.
And then you got to look at which
as possible.
And there's so variations of all of that. It drives me crazy. So I'm saying all this morning on this podcast because it's one thing to aspire to earn a degree and have a career. Great. Do it. Okay. But it's also, if you don't get educated in the rest of it, and if you don't take your education in the rest of it from people that know what they're talking about, I go crazy when I see or hear or talk to people that have these theories, these conspiracy theories. Can't be proved. They're not even a theory at that point. They're an idea. They're a position that they want to promote. It's not even a legitimate. A theory is something you can throw into a scientific process and validate one way or the other. Most of these people that have these theories, there's nothing other than, gee, I see these lines in the sky. Must be chemtrails. For crying out loud. Man, those are condensation trails. Talking about mechanics. I have a friend that's been working for United Airlines since he was 19. He's been over 50 years. He's been working for them. He's worked at every single jet in the entire United system. You name it, old and new. And I asked him one time, I said, so where do they put these chemtrail machines on these jets? He says, there's not 1 square inch of unused space on commercial airliners for that. So if it's out there, it ain't in any commercial airline. Right. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that. So the point being today, my main point today is education has so many elements to it.
Mm-hmm. It's not just going to school. That's one pathway for education. Right. The other pathways are, like you said, learning on the job, right? Exactly. The training, the certifications, some places call it professional development, right? Of as an employee, you're gaining all of this knowledge and skills, right? When I was working for Smart and Final many years ago when I was in college, I picked up a forklift certification. Man, that changed my hourly rate by $2 an hour. And it took me like a day to get it, right? But I had to be the one that raised my hand and say, hey, you know what? I want to learn that, right? And in your career over 50 years, you took different certification courses, professional development courses that brought more knowledge. But you had to raise your hand and say, I want that, put me through that training program, put me through that knowledge base. Yeah.
Because that's going to have an impact on my ability to help people. Mm-hmm. If I can't read a financial statement, how am I going to help a businessman understand what he's doing? If I don't understand human resource law as it's developed now. I mean, when I was a kid, I started working in San Francisco when I was 14 at a Pepsi Cola bottling plant, right? And I was making boxes, click, 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 boom. Or I was lifting boxes of lemons to put them in different things. I did all this in the Mission District in San Francisco, 16th and Valencia. Now, I remember when OSHA became law. We had to quit smoking at the workplace inside by the food.
Yeah, the occupational health and safety kind of like
on a federal level. And then, so that came in, and because you talk about a forklift. Well, when I got my driver's license at 16, they put me on the streets out there on Valencia Street unloading trucks with the forklift. I didn't know how to do it. I just did it. We had one guy that did a lot of this stuff. He was blind in one eye. He had sight out of one eye, so he had absolutely no perspective. But he drove that forklift. Yeah. So all of a sudden now we had laws against smoking what we were doing, and we had to wear helmets and all these things, and all the old guys were bitching and complaining. We didn't have to do this, but going back to the people that, that said, hey, no one's gotten hurt around here. Why do we have to bother with these things? Well, it just going more and more and more and more. Okay. In the restaurant business. I mean, how many, you have to have food safety and all that stuff. Well, guess what? The bigger picture in life, in the workplace, in society, has indicated issues that need to be solved that free enterprise and private industry is not solving. They have no interest in solving that. So that's one of the purposes of government, is to step in where private enterprise is not doing the job and impose things on them.
And why? Because private industry, if they are profit driven, which they are, 100% of private industry is profit driven, then the rights of the worker are below the profit driven goals. So it happened in the United Farm Workers Union. Why do they exist? Because you were murdering farm workers. Zero water and bathroom, working 115-degree weathers in poison, spraying them, giving them tools that were so small because you were saving on wood for the fucking rake and the hoe. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You would do this for decades. You would spray pesticides on top of the workers. You know, the birth rate with disability skyrocketed, right, for all these workers because you're killing them. And so you're right. When it's profit driven, people lose. Right. And so that's why government should be there to protect them.
Listen, and I want to emphasize this so heavily if I can. Today in our society, we have a government that's doing everything it can to break all that down. They don't want any of it to be there. They in various states, they're denying education on slavery. In various states, they're allowing languages about the Holocaust didn't exist. They want to erase all of that stuff. You know, they want to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion policy.
They've done it.
Why?
At the federal level, it's gone. It's gone. Yeah. So I do not include others, right?
That's why I started this conversation today by talking about the importance of education. The only reason we have what's happening today is for the last 15, 20 years, there's been a giant, loud voice that started small and grew to give us what we have today. And you talk about some of these people that are totally in favor of what our current administration, they wanted them, they got, you know, they're like, whoa. Farmers in both close to the Mexican border and close to the Canadian border, cattle ranchers, farms, and so forth. They're going broke right and left because they got no labor. I didn't vote for this. Well, what the fuck do you think you voted for? Did you bother reading Project 2025? Do you hear what they're saying?
Yeah, or you want 99% of them didn't.
They haven't got a clue. So that's what drives me insane. So the point being, it's up to each and every one of us to be educated, to be familiar. And I'm looking online these days, and I'm seeing so many bright young voices. They are so articulate. They are educated, and they have podcasts that are taking on these people that feel the other way, or they're debunking bullshit. There's a PhD in nutrition that takes on Kennedy and all the rest of these things, says, no, you know, that what you're telling people is wrong. There's a guy that's a religious scholar, PhD in religion, and he's talking about the politicalization of the King James Bible. That's why there's 45,000 sects and different ideas on what Christianity is. Not just 20 or 30 we might be able to rattle off the top of our heads. Worldwide, there's 45,000 different interpretations of what they said. Yeah. Now, I'm not blasting religion. I think Jesus was an incredible story. All that stuff's great. But for God's sakes, realize it for really what it is, okay? Yeah. And the same thing is true with politics. There's some young people, man, they can cite constitutional law. They can cite case studies. And when these people go on to try and defend their uneducated viewpoint, because they say, well, you know, these are good things. No, they're not. Let me tell you why. So there's hope that I see that gives me reason to be confident in the future of the country. There are people out there that are fighting this thing. You look around, man, almost every day somewhere in this country, there are protests and organizations to fight what's going on. And hopefully it'll gain more and more and more momentum. But in the meantime, if you're listening to this podcast, make it your business to understand right from wrong, truth from fact, truth and facts from fiction and lies. Understand when you're being motivated. Understand when you're being pushed into a position. It's going to put money in someone's pocket somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
Okay.
And usually not yours.
No. Well,
Right.
and so last week I had the opportunity to go to my granddaughter's graduation.
Mm-hmm.
It was a thank you. It was a moving experience for me.
Tell me about it.
She graduated from, she got a full ride to Berkeley. She's a very smart young lady.
Wow, UC Berkeley.
Oh, yeah. And the last time I told her, I said, look, the last time I was on this campus was in 1968, Memorial Day weekend, when the People's Park, was going on. And I have pictures of National Guards on Hearst Street standing behind concertina, with bayonets in their rifles. And I have a picture of one of these National Guardsmen with a daisy in the barrel of his gun. And over his shoulder is a billboard for the election of Richard Nixon. And it says, Nixon's the one. It was amazing. So I'm telling my granddaughter this story with her friends, and we're all getting together after graduation and so forth. They wanted to know more. They couldn't believe it. Yeah, Mario Salvo. What you all went to Berkeley, okay? What did Mario Salvo bring to you folks? Who's Mario Salvo? Mm-hmm. I just about went crazy. He led the free speech movement when Ronald Reagan was president, and S.I. Hayakawa was the president in San Francisco State, and the Board of Regents at the University of California system. They didn't want anybody talking against the war in Vietnam. Yeah. They didn't want anybody talking against, civil rights.
Yeah.
Stop it right then and there. And the college students and Mario Salvo and all these people said, no, we get to say these things. It's our rights. Right. And they won.
That's right.
So
I remember that. I remember just even, the athletes like Muhammad Ali saying, I'm not going to go kill poor people.
Exactly.
Like, no, absolutely. Like it's just fundamentally wrong to him. And he said, be what it may, lock me up if you wish, but I'm not going to go kill poor people. And
during Muhammad Ali's time away from the sport, okay? Yeah. He said he left the sport and was an individual and wrote it out. And he was standing in front of a hotel on Geary Street in San Francisco in 1967, 68, something like that. And I happened to be walking down the street. He was standing there all by himself. And me and two of my friends, wow, what an honor.
Wow.
Mr. Ali. And we sat there and we talked for about 10 or 15 minutes before we moved on. And there was no one else around. It's just us.
Wow.
And here's this icon of a human being, not just the greatest boxer, but an icon of a human being. And I was telling him, I said, look, man, you are. I started watching and listening to your fights before I was a teenager. Mm-hmm. And here I am talking to you now. And I said, you know what? What means more to me than anything right now is not the greatness that you had in the boxing ring, which was exceptional. God, it was fun to watch. But it's what you're doing to help people in this country understand what it takes to overcome these things. And he says,
That's
son,
right.
you got it, don't you? Oh my God, that was Muhammad Ali telling me these things, okay? So
wow, what an experience.
Yeah, so those are the things that drive me. And so when we go through the rest of these episodes and we start talking about, careers, we start talking about family relations, we start talking about living your best life in the 8 elements that we showed on the screen last episode, right? Mm-hmm. Understand where it's coming from. understand where I'm coming from with those things. Every one of my ideas on those topics will have gone through my 50 years of understanding and researching and looking. And I'm not saying, the other thing I want to make sure I clearly will share with you is that each and every one of those elements and all the things that go into that, it's all part of a scientific process. A science means you have an idea about something. It's a theory. Well, let's see if we can prove the theory and make it a fact. Great. Yeah. Now, let's see if we continue to research and learn more. Oh, guess what? We're gonna modify that a little bit because we've learned a bit more. We've learned a bit more. We've learned all my life.
That's right.
I've witnessed
other people. I call it. Well, I heard it somewhere, but I forget the author. But fail forward. Right? We're experiment, hypothesize. What if? Right? The what if? What if I take 2 of these classes? Right? Hypothesize. Let's see what changes.
Exactly.
And then adjust as needed. But I do want to get back to your graduation story. So you're back in Berkeley.
Yeah.
Right?
So
after decades of not being there. Last time you were there was armed guards. It was a civil rights movement. It was a completely different time that we're now refacing and reliving. So what was
and it's worse today.
Homecoming?
One of the parents of a graduate, one of my granddaughter's close friends, is the daughter of a older couple. Okay, they're like maybe 5-10 years younger than I am, so they're fresh with this stuff. One's an attorney, and the other one is a Mexican consulate. Okay, super people, loved them to death, and so and we're talking about where we are today with these things, and I'm saying, in my life, what we're experiencing today in 2015. Is far worse than whatever we went through in the 60s. It is more dangerous. It is more systemic. It is. So we're listening. So what? I'm sitting in this auditorium. They had 2 graduations at Cal Berkeley. I didn't know this. One was a big giant thing in the football auditorium. All these thousands and thousands of people, and the people aren't walking. It's a service, and they have somebody that talks that's of great value and so forth and so on. Maybe it's a politician, celebrity, whoever that person might be. So they had that the previous Saturday. Now this is Tuesday, and it's my granddaughter's specific area of study. So she graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology. Now, I didn't know the difference between a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Science before I went there. So I went online and I learned the difference between the two. So I at least understood what I was seeing and participating.
Right.
And so I'm looking at this thing, and it's a 2-hour ceremony. And the people that are graduating are receiving either undergraduate degrees, like my granddaughter, a Bachelor of Arts, or they're receiving master's degrees, or some even receiving PhDs. And I'm reading about what they studied and what their topic was and all these different things. And I'm looking at how deep the deeper they go from a Bachelor of Arts to a master's to a PhD and the areas of study. And I'm looking at these things and I'm listening to what they have to say, these graduates and so forth. And I'm realizing that these people in anthropology in particular study of human beings, the study of the history of mankind, basically. And some of these people would go down to like South America, and they would spend a few years in examining a culture on the Amazon or something, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, the common denominator that I'm listening to with all these things is the embracement of ideas in cultures and their method of going back to these issues that we talked about at the beginning. Air, water, shelter, food, representation, all those things. Mankind has been looking at that and trying to figure out the best way of doing that.
Since we started.
Exactly.
30,000 years ago, whatever the number is.
So here are all these people doing these things, and some of the stories that I heard. And these young graduates, the bachelors are, they're not quite sure what they're going to do next and all that. And honestly, it brought tears to my eyes. Okay. I'm in the audience. I'm listening to these things. It was all I could do to not just bawl. because these are young people that are striving, in anthropology in particular, they're striving to create a better human existence worldwide.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. And my granddaughter has all these different skills. She's the best artist I've ever seen in my life, fine artist. She's creative in whatever she does. She's smart as can possibly be. And she's lamenting the fact that some of the other people that she got to know at Berkeley, they already have job offers for 90 grand plus, engineers and different things like that. And what have I got? I can hope for maybe a $40,000 or $50,000 a year job. I said, listen, sweetheart, do not worry about that. You have an arts, Bachelor of Arts foundation. Now I understood what that meant. Okay, you know how to learn. You know how to excel. You've never gotten anything less than an A in your life. Okay, and whatever you do from within, you want to make it better. And you know what? The people that want what you've got, that recognize what you got, they'll find you. And they'll offer you what you need, what you want, and your life will be just fine. And so don't you worry about a thing for the moment. You're 21 years old. You don't have this stuff figured out yet, and you have the life to figure it out. I didn't figure it out. I told her I didn't figure it out until I was in my 60s. Okay?
It's a journey, right? It's a journey that you are just
It's a scientific process.
Yes, it is.
So as
Absolutely.
I prepare for these discussions that you and I have, which I'm so grateful for, because they've caused me to look back on 5 decades and where I was mentally, where I was priorities, what was important to me, and the choices that I made based on the things that I thought were most important. Now I look on my son-in-law's life, and he was born with this stuff figured out. He's an artist, and he's a successful artist. He went right from, marriage to a very successful career as a stained glass artist worldwide. And he wakes up in the morning and he works all day very hard. And he works at whatever he touches, whatever he does is going to have an absolutely great and beautiful outcome. And so when they lived at my house, my daughter, my son-in-law, my granddaughters, for 3.5 years during COVID and so forth and so on, I got to watch this family evolve. I went to sleep at night listening to the laughter around their dinner table. Okay. Right. And there was things that they did as habits and practices that I didn't like. I didn't get it. Man, you say you're going to be somewhere on time, be it on time, clean up after this, don't do that. And I finally, I got them all together one time and I said, you guys have been here now, it's like 6 months, whatever it was. And you live a very different lifestyle than your grandma and I. But I'll tell you what, I would not want any one of the 4 of you, to do anything different than what you're doing right now, because I would not want that change to cause any alteration in the gifts that the 4 of you bring every single day to this family and life. Right. I don't care whether you leave dishes in the sink or not. I don't care whether you left the toilet seat up or down. I don't care whether you left a towel, So there's different stuff like that.
What you saw is a good family that's starting out and learning to work with each other and live with each other, and then they're living under your roof, new rules, there's these things we carry, with us, and when we have to live with others, right? That we often, most of the times, those relationships don't work out because you're in 2 different environments, right?
Exactly, different priorities.
That's right. But you had the foresight to see it. No, they're an evolving family. What they do that might bother me is not a big deal because they're good people.
And they excel at everything they were doing.
Yeah,
everything.
And they're young. They're going to make mistakes.
Oh my God. The first pie that my granddaughter ever made, I looked at that pie and I've never seen anything like it. I have a friend that went to the Culinary Academy, right? And he's a very successful restaurateur and all these different things. And I showed him a picture of this pie. His mouth dropped. Whoa, God, I've never seen anything like that. How did it taste? I said, well, it tastes as good as it looked. He said, I can't believe that. But that's because that's what these people, my granddaughter right now, she'll be coming home finally next to my other granddaughter, my younger granddaughter. She's been in Europe since January 4th.
Wow.
All over
what an
Europe.
Experience. So
she arrived she arrived in Ireland, then she went to Scotland and England and Wales and Spain and Portugal and Italy and France and all these different things. Meanwhile, doing her courses online. Okay. Mm-hmm. And
imagine the learning. The learning, that kind of learning you cannot get in a classroom.
No.
You have to go and imagine. I can only imagine, because I visited just a handful of places around the world where I'm like blown away at what I learned just in a matter of hours after landing in a foreign country other than the United States, right? And so I can only imagine her European tour, right? Well, because she's in so many countries.
Well, she's one of the most exceptional people I've ever met in my life. You drop her in any situation, and she's going to be the brightest light. Happy, feel like, oh my God, this young lady is just full of love and life. Oh my God. And so she's at this thing called Wolfers, which is an international association of people that have farms and ranches and different things like that. And they'll put you up room and board in exchange for 25 hours a week work on their particular thing. And so she's chopped wood, she's foraged for mushrooms, she's built things, cleaned, whatever it might be. And some of and we WhatsApp, we do this visual chat, usually every week. And the people that she's staying with will get on there, say in their language most of the time. Some of them speak English. Mm-hmm. What an incredible joy it is to have this young lady in our home. And I know how she works. I've seen her work around here. So the point being, though, she is an example of getting the education beyond structured education that can carry her for the rest of her life. So my message to the people listening to this is education is a full-time job for the rest of your life.
Learning experiences, yes. Yeah. I cannot agree more, Rob. I mean, I want to throw something in there. All my kids, right? Yeah. We send them through the church, through the Catholic Church over here in Sacramento. They do a yearly pilgrimage to Guatemala to help people in poverty and to build roads and to help build homes, whatever they can. And as kids, the first time they're like, no way, Dad. What do you mean? No, what do you mean? I'm not going to have any electricity. What do you mean there's no internet? And of course, the first thing was like, nah, we're not interested. And I just looked over at them and I said, who told you had a choice? So long story short, my son, Mateo, the youngest one that still lives with us, he's only a freshman in high school. He's been to Guatemala 3 times already.
Oh my God! Well, he's
barely a freshman in high school, and this next summer, actually, they leave. It's already almost summer, so they leave like in a month again. And dude, he has got it down. Like I want to go now with him because he's going to be my tour guide, because it's like it changes people, right? Yeah. Just having these kinds of experience, and these are those informal learning.
Exactly.
That
life lessons.
Life lesson that you cannot get in a textbook. Mm-mm. You cannot get it, from the virtual meetings. You have to live it. I can only imagine the experiences your granddaughter has experienced, because I know my kids, all 3 of them came back different, because with a newfound respect for people, newfound respect for culture and how other people live, and it's not just them, right? And that was the greatest learning, and it brings so much happiness to my heart that my kids, by force initially, right, went, and now we don't even have to say anything. They're already got it on their calendars. They're excited to go.
That's a tribute. So as I look at my granddaughters, and I look at my daughter and my son-in-law. Man, they totally aced parenting, okay? Mm-hmm. And I look at your kids, and I look at your youngest son, whom I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple of times, and he reminds me of my granddaughter. Always got a smile on his face, always has a positive attitude, always got his hand up ready to help. I mean, he's just like that. He's just like that. He's only a freshman, okay? But I mean, and your daughter, you know, I've had a chance to meet her and all that. And I know what kind of people these are. And, you know, they're blessed to have you and Maria, you know, guide them. My granddaughters are blessed to have my daughter and my son-in-law guide them. And yet somehow, you know, even without that guidance, you can persevere. You can make your way through.
That's right.
I had a loving mom, completely uneducated, married at 16, didn't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't have the benefit of any of that, okay? None. But in my spirit, in my soul, in who I am as a person, thank God it began to come through.
Yeah.
So I was able to, but it's taken me 5 decades to identify what those lessons are all about. So that's why at this point in my life.
And to give them credit, right? Because even with my family, it's like, oh my God, now I understand why times were so tough. Now I have a better understanding of why my family reacts this way, right? When these problems exist. And now I can see that and adapt, right? And learn from even those personal experiences as we reflect back on those decisions that had to be made. And so it's just, wow, every time we connect, Rob, it's just another opening, another, you know, vision that I'm starting to get on
I appreciate
how life has just evolved. And so I want to make sure we cover just a couple more things, Rob, here before we let our audience go. Is talk to me about reframing education as a hustle.
Yeah. Okay. So again, what outlook or what outcome of your life do you want? Okay. What's the outcome that you're looking for with the choices that you make with the time that you have every day? What outcome do you want? Do you want to drive a $100,000 car and live in $1 million house? Do you want to help people? Do you want to motivate others towards the best possible life that they can have? So obviously every aspect of our life in this society needs people, needs experts. They need people, mechanics, engineers, doctors, you name it. They all need something. And so rather than making a decision of your formal education and your career path with those things, if your outcome, try and make your outcome not purely based on finances. Make your outcome based on how well it resonates to who you are, what you want, and what your life purpose is. We were all born with those things. Some of us can learn those things immediately and understand, well, that's who I am, like my son-in-law. Good Lord. Me, no, not so lucky. It took me a long time. So the point being that your path, if you use a career path in engineering, chemistry, whatever it might be, good, great. What are you going to do with it? Are you doing it just to have the big house and the fancy car and all those things? There's so many issues and so many examples. There's more examples of people that took the career path of wealth and accumulation than helping and then identifying who they are. And when you look at that, you look at divorces, you look at kids that don't have any relationship with their parents and these things, because the motivation was all towards accumulation of wealth. And they got to be really good at what they do, and they're able to earn a lot because of that. Well, congratulations, that's just fine. But if you really, really, really want to hit a home run in your life, that will not be the primary issue. It might be the third or fourth thing.
I see, again, students, I can't tell you how many I see a day. It's just when we have these conversations about, what their future looks like. And I get a lot of 18, 19, 20, 25-year-olds, 30-year-olds. And I ask them kind of, what do you want to do? What do you want to study, et cetera, in our counseling? And how easily, more than half, 60% will say, I want to help people.
Good.
They just don't know how to.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And they assume, right? And they assume that, I'm going to be a nurse so I can help people. and be a medical doctor, because the first thing they default to is health. And it's usually because someone in their family has gone through some kind of health crisis, right? And that love of wanting to be there for the person, help the person, etc. And so my job is to really get them to explore that. Yes, health is an option, but that's not the only option, right? There's so many other things you can do to help others, right? So if you're in that situation, as a listener, just what my advice to you would be is you begin the learning process, and the journey will push you towards the types of groups that you will be helping. And what I mean by that is you may have started off as a nursing major, and while you're taking nutrition and psychology and chemistry and biology, you're going to start to see and be exposed to things that you didn't know before you started. And part of that learning is learning to adjust, learning to pivot, right? So you may have started off as a nursing major, but now you realize you're going into healthcare administration, which is different, right? It's not nursing. Now you're more into the, say, potential business side of healthcare and leaning towards maybe even pharmaceutical development. Now you're moving into, so just being open to learning, and then accepting that what you're learning may pivot you in life, right? And be cool with that. It's totally cool, because we'll go back to one of our previous episodes. We talked about what you as a person, when you're learning, you're evolving. And when you're evolving, you have to factor in that my life may be pointed that way, this way, or this way, but they're all positive outcomes because I'm learning something.
It's all part of the human scientific process. Now, the reason I articulated and wrote down these 7 elements in the beginning of this conversation, if somebody came to me and said, I just want to help people, I said, well, look, these are the essential human needs. Let's talk about healthy air, healthy food, safe shelter, healthcare, education, transportation, legal representation. Those are 7 choices that you can look for and find a career and find a way to help the human experience. Let's start with our planet, just our planet, okay? If we don't care for the way we care for our planet, all humanity is screwed, okay? Here's
you want to help everyone, help the world.
Right. So I would say to them, let's look at these 7 things and explore careers that'll serve as a foundation.
Environmental science, hydrology, aviation,
education,
transportation, railroad for transportation,
legal representation.
Exactly. Biology for healthcare.
So these 7 things, I mean, you could have hundreds of career paths in any one of these 7 things. Shelter. You can become a construction specialist. You can learn new building methods.
You can learn, be a social worker and help people find housing, right? You can be a politician and pass laws and regulations that feed the homeless and shelter the homeless.
Exactly.
You can be a community advocate, right? To work with foster youth, to work with justice-involved youth. It's just so, but as a 20-year-old, you don't know that. You know what I mean? And that's why I think these podcasts are so critical is now you're able to hear from people who have done it for decades, right? Including, your 50, 60 years of knowledge of how people move and develop and become their best self, right? Means that the world is open to you, but it starts with accepting that you need to learn things. Accepting that life is going to throw curveballs at you all day. And accepting that you have to, in one form or another, continuously be educating yourself, whether it be in your profession, whether it be in school and classes and that kind of stuff, or whether it just be exploring the world like your granddaughter, putting yourself in situations where you have to learn about these people, where you have to learn about these new cultures, where you have to learn about a new country, etc. All of those, at the end of the day, right, is your resume of learning. Is what I tell my
It's gaining perspective. So, I mean, look, my scientific human journey Insurance. Well, okay. I learned economics in insurance. I learned legal in insurance. I learned all these different components of what we're talking about. And as I move forward, I mean, virtually all 7 of these things that I consider to be the essential human needs in our current society, it serves as a basis to say, okay, these are the 7 essential things. Start with one of them. Pick one that you think has the best. You want to help people. I get that. Now, let's not forget about music, right? Mm-hmm. Your son, my oldest, dearest friend in the world, he's a seven-time Grammy award winner. Not award winner, but nomination. He hasn't won one yet. So anyway, I mean, music plays an important role in these things. In health, music is health. Music is math. Okay. Music is influencing society and speaking to humans on a different level. So, I mean, there's so many things that you can look at.
Music is spiritual.
Absolutely.
Cultural. It changes the chemistry of what your brain is processing, right?
How are you going to dance if there's no music?
That's right. How are you going to cry if there's no music? You know what I mean? Sometimes I get in the car and I drive off by myself for a couple hours and turn on my favorite music, and tears will come out while I'm driving. And I use it to just process a lot of things and, meditate. That's my meditation, right? Is my allowance. And, I do that because of these other factors in my life, right? But Chicano male, macho man, all this other bullshit that I'm dealing with, right? So I still do those kinds of things. And what's around? Music.
Exactly. There's a song from my youth by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Okay? And it's called Teach Your Children. And when that song comes on, man, it always brings tears to my eyes. Now I can't help but not feel affected by it. I mean, not only do I listen to music and I digest the music, but I sing along with it as well. Thank God there's no one around, because I really enjoy that. Okay? And I'll be out there. You've seen my place up here. There's a woodshed that we've got. AndLl sit out there in the woodshed and I'll listen to music and I'll sing right along with it. My artists are like Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash and Doc Watson, and there's just some, because they have the same soul. They have the same experiences that they're singing about that I hear when I go to my friends that have, Chicano experiences. I have thankfully, all these different people I've met. Okay. So music tells a story. Music causes emotion. Music educates. Music motivates. You learn from music. Some music is, you learn from the negative things that they're speaking about, that they're singing about. Look, whoa, man. No. Hey, you know what? It's all a lesson. I mean,
now that I know your music, I got to throw one out there on you. Mine, the one that brings tears to my eyes, and it's an old famous Mexican ballad. It's called Un Puño a la Tierra. It's basically a fistful of earth, meaning the moral of the song is you can't take it with you.
Oh, wow.
So live your best life now. And man, it just like, damn. As soon as it comes on, those tears, even thinking about that song, those tears start to come out, because it's it reminds you you're only here for a blink of an eye. In reality, in the history of the world. And so trust me, it's one of those things that where at any moment I can get away for a good 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, exactly.
That song comes on, it's over. You'll see me just boom.
What's that song? It's Kissing. Mucho, Kissing Me Always. My daughter and her husband and my son-in-law danced to that at their wedding. And I wish I could remember the name of it. It has something like Kissing Me.
Next episode, we'll bring it. Find it. And next episode, we'll start with that.
All right. So today, it's all been about the breadth and depth of the education that can benefit you the most.
Yeah.
And it's about straightening out your sources of information, because I'm not going to sit and talk to people about living your best life on those 8 elements that we put up last time, without people knowing that there is a lot of voices, there's a lot of influences on any and all of those things. And I wanted people to start with this foundation, with what we've been talking about today. I want them to understand the importance of having a lifetime of education, and that life is a human scientific process for each and every one of us. So and hopefully we've achieved some of that today.
And that you can learn, and you do learn. And it's a matter of, you taking that next step to realize, you know what, I'm learning every day. Yeah. And it's time for me to align some of this learning with some of my goals, right? And as an educator, I got to throw the plug in there, right, for community colleges. Now, community colleges, they're hard as shit to navigate. Okay, not going to bullshit you. Okay, they are hard to navigate. Okay, application processes, enrollment processes, financial aid processes, and sometimes it may feel that they kind of don't want me at the college because there's just so many barriers. And I just want to throw that out there, because that is no reason not to attempt.
Well, right? I got to tell you, I had the opportunity at this picnic that we had following graduation to meet this young lady's parents, the Mexican consulate and her attorney father. And we're talking about these things, and the conversation came around to Techo Guide. Because they're thinking about the next, what do we do next now, right? These are all anthropology people. You can't get a job in anthropology. You got to use it as a platform for your master's. And I said, so let me tell you about this amazing couple that I met, and the project that they're doing, and what they've built. And I started describing it to them, and their jaws dropped. Like, oh my God, do we need that? Okay, and they need it for their own family. But this lady, she's about to go to Thailand now, or she was in Thailand now. She went from a Mexican consulate in Sacramento area. Now she's on assignment over there, so she flies back and forth all the time. It's a really, really interesting, bright lady. Okay, and her husband. And as I'm explaining what you've built, she says, "Oh my God, I wish I'd had that." Years ago.
We get that a lot.
So she understands. I mean, and I get such a joy visiting with people that have found their own way of navigating to these things. Both these folks did. They weren't born on third base with a silver spoon in their pockets, right? They got there, the way that they got there. So when they tell me that they made it, and now they can appreciate what you guys are doing, what Techo Guide's all about.
Yeah, and it's trying to simplify, right? Let's take a step back, and the simplification of these processes, right? And that's really what we do. I see that we simplify because it's just too complex. Yeah.
So that's, to me, what we're bringing to the table in these conversations is the package that education needs to come in.
That's right. And these videos are part of that, right? These videos are part of that. Exposure to other professionals, right? Like yourself, Tio Rob.
Yep.
What makes Tio Rob tick? Right? Yeah. What lessons can Tio Rob teach me about living my own better life, right? The best life I can live, right? And the exposure, right? And not only through content like this, but also through a free app. And if you haven't downloaded the Techo Guide app, free field, audience, download the Techo Guide app, start playing with it, right? Is it perfect? Of course not. There's no such thing as perfection. What it is, it's a tool that you can now use to learn about the different options that are out there available at the most affordable system of higher education in America, which happens to be the largest, which is the California community colleges. And here in California, we got 40 million adults, right? Just 40 million state population, more than half now, leaning toward more than half of the kids now, 57% happen to be Latino. That are in our school systems. And we have, Latinos have the lowest higher education completion rate. And those have massive, that does massive harm to our economy, to our workforce, right? To the individual families that can't figure out how to, up their game beyond high school diploma. Right. And so, again, I'm an advocate of this system that kind of beats people up. I'm not going to bullshit you here. You know what I mean? The system kind of beats people up. And if you don't know how to navigate it, you could become a victim of it. Right. And so please use our tools. Please watch our content. What we'll do about comment on our content. You see what you're hearing this video now. Drop us some knowledge, leave us a question, leave us something, give us an idea of what else to talk about that you may need for you to take that next level in your life of learning. And what I mean by learning is back to, if you want to join college and do that, then we will guide you through California community colleges. But now, Rob, we're starting to add the non-college tracks to Techo Guide. Good. Because it's not just college, you know what I mean? It's all of these other things that are free and affordable that you can learn to make your life eventually just a little bit better so you can live your best life. And so, thank you for the time for really just dropping your knowledge of over 50 years of professional work in not only business, but in life, because it really does help us see what's out there for us and how to obtain it.
Well, I appreciate that. There's two quick comments I want to make on closing. One is, when I look at what I've learned about the Latino community, okay? Man, I mean, you're talking about people that endured an enormous amount of stress and pain and problems to get here in the first place, okay? These are not weak people. These are not people that are greedy. These are not people that, taking that 57% of the population and elevating what they can do in our society can only benefit everybody. That's number one.
That's right.
Number two, these days, I don't know about you, but when I need to go someplace, I either use Waze or use Google Maps, and it'll tell me how to get there. And Waze I like because it tells me, oh, by the way, go around this way, go this other way, and so forth and so on. Techo Guide, isn't that, that's Techo Guide. Techo Guide is your Google Maps. It's your Waze. It's going to follow it, make it easier for you. Yeah, and then bear in mind that even Waze can't tell you, where the best sandwich shop is along the way. Okay, it's going to tell you how to get from A to Z. But if you want to, so I say that as an analogy because you need to know the rest of the education. Techo Guide cannot add to it all these other topics that we're talking about. Because mainly, if there's college courses in them or whatever, okay, but put it all together, man. Put it all together. There's nobody requiring anybody to be an educated voter.
That's right.
That's up to you. There's nobody requiring you to be an educated eater or exercise person. That's up to you. So that's right. My whole
here in America, we only require you to go to the 12th grade.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
Right? And the system kind of hopes that you don't go beyond the 12th grade.
Why? Follow the money.
That's right.
Okay. Follow the money. Man, I tell you, these sessions that we have are so important to me, and I appreciate them so much because it helps me pull out from my experiences in my life on what I've learned from them. And thank God, I've learned a lot from them, and I want to share this. That's my purpose. Okay. My purpose is to hopefully give people a perspective and an idea that maybe they don't get otherwise.
That's right. Well, Rob, this brings us to an end of our third episode on again, you dropping knowledge on living our best lives. So again, from the deepest part of my heart, thank you very much for dedicating the time to sharing your knowledge, to making us all better human beings. Tio Rob, everyone.
I appreciate it. Very good. Well, thank you, Professor G. We'll see each other next week.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
You be well. You
Bye-bye.
too.
Thank you for tuning into Techo Guide, the app focused on bringing you tools and content to help you make better decisions about school, life, and career. We hope this episode has inspired you to pursue and excel in your own educational and career journey. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share.